For such a popular character, there really aren't that many figures of him out there. There are more Chewbacca's, more Darth Vaders, heck, there's almost as many Qui-Gon Jinns, and he was in 2 fewer movies. But his Q rating just keeps going up, and every year the toy companies fall all over themselves to see who can best pander to collectors who will buy anything with his face on it for no other reason than he's got a jetpack, a cool helmet, and there was that one time where he just happened to be in the area when Darth Vader threw out some of his scraps in the form of Han Solo frozen in carbonite because he no longer had any use for him. Hi, I'm Dan Larson, and these are the 10 best Boba Fett action figures. Kenner's 1979 Boba Fett will not be included in this list because I am incapable of being objective about it. It's my favorite figure, always has been, always will be. As the owner of the Boba Set, one of the largest collections of Kenner Boba Fett figures in the known galaxy, it obviously has a Hall of Fame status that is so far ahead of anything that it could be judged against that it's not only unfair but would render this exercise void of any drama, as the number 1 would be obvious. I didn't properly pronounce exercise. Number 10 is 2013 Gentle Giant 12-inch Jumbo Boba Fett. All too easy. It's just the 1979 Kenner figure, only bigger. It's 12 inches tall and pretty much looks like the original with slight variations. He comes with a blaster and even has a J-slot firing rocket that won't take your eye out no matter how hard you try. Number 9 is 2000's Hasbro 3 3/4 inch Power of the Jedi 300th Fett. Considered an anniversary figure of some sort, it is allegedly the 300th Star Wars figure produced by Hasbro, but I honestly don't know if that's supposed to include the Kenner stuff or variations or what. It's sweet that they gave that honor to Fett, and it's an incredibly nice figure if you can get around the fact that he only has 8 points of articulation, and none of those are in his elbows or knees. I don't even know why they gave him those 8 points when there's really only one pose you can put him in. But he does have a cloth cape, moving rangefinder, his holster with removable pistol, fantastic paint detail, and a removable jetpack that has 2 different rockets. One that looks right and acts as a plug, and a second that is designed for being fired, but looks dumb. Number 8 is 2012's Hasbro 3 3/4 inch Bespin Battle 3-pack Boba Fett. This one probably snuck right by a lot of collectors. I know it did for me. I didn't even know it had been released until sometime in 2014. It is easily the best sculpt on a 3 3/4 inch Fett figure, especially the helmet, even if it isn't removable and the rangefinder doesn't pivot. 5 POA, removable jetpack, holster with pistol, and ball and socket head make this a must-have in the 3 3/4 inch scale, even if it means you have to buy one of the worst Bespin Luke figures and another Darth Vader. Number 7 is 2015 Square Enix PlayArts Kai 10-inch Boba Fett. Super articulated, super stylized, cool fire and jetpack effects. It's Boba Fett as reinterpreted with a more modern look, heavily influenced by the mech and armor designs of today. Fett already has a weird kit-bashed asymmetry to his design. This version goes a long way to celebrating that, but also tying it all together with every part of his gear getting a makeover that simultaneously unnecessarily complicates each part, but consistently over-designs them, giving the entire package a sense of uniformity. Some liberties are taken with the proportions of the anatomy, especially if there's supposed to be a head in that helmet, but that's all part of the aesthetic. It's a sharp, modern, fresh take on a character that could use some updating. Number 6 is 2015's Bandai Model Kit 6-inch Boba Fett. 2 things stop this piece from ranking higher. 1, some assembly required, which is fun, don't get me wrong, but also pushes it more into the model category than the figure category. 2, your satisfaction will vary based on your ability to paint it or your decision to leave it unpainted. If you're a decent model painter, you can really make this thing look screen accurate. It has the potential to be a number 1 ranked item in the right hands. If you either can't do that or choose not to, then you're left with what looks like a posable model kit, which is still very detailed, but lagging behind the other pieces on this list. Number 5 is 2009 Hasbro Legacy Collection 3 3/4 inch Boba Fett. The most detailed, the dream 3 3/4 inch figure. Cloth cape, removable helmet, holster with removable blaster, removable jetpack, joints everywhere. The only thing that could be improved on it is to give him hips that let his legs move left and right instead of just front to back. The paint on this figure is unparalleled at this scale by anything that is being done in Star Wars figures today. Also, this figure was released 2 different times with just the slightest of paint variations, so this number 5 spot is for the 2009 Legacy Collection and the 2010 Vintage Collection figure, which is practically exactly the same figure. Number 4 is 2015 Bandai Movie Realization or Samurai 7-inch Boba Fett, a really different interpretation of the Fett armor, pushing him all the way back to feudal Japan. Unfortunately for Fett, the reinterpretation doesn't work as well as it does for Vader since his helmet shape was so iconic to begin with, and adding anything to it really feels like it was added on for no good reason. That said, as a complete package, this is a stunning, hyper-detailed figure with so many tiny accessories, like all those little tools that are usually just sculpted into the pockets on his shins. It borders on obscene. They could have really dulled the colors down so they didn't pop as much, but they left them true to Fett's colorful nature, and combined with the truly unique sculpt, makes this a standout piece for Fett's and for action figures in general. Number 3 is Kyoto's 2015 Revoltech 6-inch Boba Fett. Reasonable minds will disagree as to whether the proportions of this figure and the exposed Revoltech ball joints are acceptable in exchange for a Fett that is far more posable than any other figure on the market at this scale. Extra hands, both of his guns, incredible paint applications with matte and gloss finishes. It's a bit on the cartoony side, which means that it might not pass if you're going for a really screen-accurate display or photo. But if you're looking for straight-out action, character expression, and posing fun, you cannot do better than this Revoltech piece. Number 2 is Hasbro's 2013 Black Series 6-inch Boba Fett. For the price, for the quality, for the availability when it was first released, Hasbro's Black Series is still the top of the field. When you actually take all of these figures together and line them up against each other, which we have several times in several different ways, the Black Series measures up at every turn, taking either first or second place every time. Cloth cape, removable jetpack, rifle, and holster with blaster, a healthy amount of paint detailing, and a respectable amount of posability. There is only one figure that can be called better. Number 1 is 2016 Medicom Mafex 6-inch Boba Fett, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. Most screen-accurate proportions, all the right guns, movable rangefinder, articulated pant cuffs, alternate hands, a stand, an incredibly friendly price point for an import of such a popular character, both versions released within a month of each other. Maybe it should have come with a cloth cape, maybe a system of articulation that was more focused on posing than hiding the joints, maybe a fully removable helmet could make this figure better, maybe Figuarts will take some of that into account if they ever release a Fett. You're going to have to get into Hot Toys to find anything better than this, and certainly not at 6 inches. Those are the 10 best Boba Fett action figures, a list that caused me actual physical pain to try to put together, so be gentle in the comments. Thanks for watching. Please give this video a like, hit subscribe, and share this with all your Fett friends, even the Django ones. It's tough to try to put so many cool figures in an order. They all have their pros and cons. They all bring something different to the collection, even though they're all the same guy. That's why 1979 Kenner Fett will always be the true number 1 to me, the figure that really locked me into action figures for good, regardless of how little he actually looks like Boba Fett. Can you imagine him in the film with that giant red missile? That one right there on the back of his back. I'd like to see someone cosplay that. A super realistic, screen-accurate Boba Fett with a giant red lipstick missile sticking out of his back. And his swimming hand. Swimming. God.